Welcome to another session of Aussie Green Thumb on Camera. This week I'm going to teach you how to do reticulation. It's very simple reticulation. It's not white pipe stuff hard lined into the mains or anything. It's just really simple stuff that you can do for smaller gardens. You don't want to use this for like massive garden beds, and you don't want to use this for your like grasses and stuff because it's just not going to have the pressure to have enough things. Behind me I've actually pre-dug all the way around. What I've done is about probably 5 or 10 centimetres down. It doesn't need to be far, just enough for the soil to cover it. I've dug a bit of away from the paving because generally good paving has a cement outer line, which this one does. So you don't want to catch yourself by digging into the cement and then getting your pavers kind of going everywhere. So I've just gone a little bit back from that, and I'm just going to continue with laying the reticulation, so here we go. So for today's reticulation purposes, I'm just using a 13mm poly pipe. You can get 19mm, you can get 25mm, but for what I'm doing, just a small little garden, 13mm will be fine. I am going to start off with a piece of 19mm, but I'll show you that when we get to that time. I'll explain that as we go. A very good tip for using poly pipe, it always comes in big rolls like this. And you can sometimes race ahead and start pulling it out and laying it down, and it's just in circles and it becomes really difficult. What you want to do first is you actually want to unwind the entire roll. So find something you can fix one end under and then unroll the rest, because that'll help to get rid of some of the tangle. It won't get rid of it all, but it will make it much easier to use. So when it comes to actually putting the retic together, it doesn't matter whether you start at the end or at the beginning. I generally like to start at the beginning because then I work out how much I need as I work around. Some people like to work out the end and work their way back before they make the connection. There's no real reason for that, it's just what some people like to do. So what I've got here is just a little connector. Now I'm choosing to use a click-on connector. You could use a hardline connector that just goes straight onto the tap, but I like to have the freedom to actually take this off when I need to. Just make sure there's one little trick. Find out the size of your tap, because you get 18mm connections and you get 12mm connections, like the one I've got here. And you don't want to go to Bunnings or go to your local nursery or go to like Total Eden, wherever it is that you get your retic stuff from, and then come home and be like, I haven't got the piece that I need. So check the tap connector before you go. So what I'm going to do, unscrew the end, take this little piece out, push it down on there beforehand, and then this just pushes straight on like that, as tight as you can. Making sure it's as far down as it will go. Push that in, feed this bit back on there, and your 19mm piece of pipe is connected. Now yes, you heard that right, 19mm. Around my garden bed, I'm going to use 13mm. But I like to use 19mm at the start because it helps to increase the pressure. Because the water comes out here at a set rate. If it can fill 19mm, which it will, then it's more water, and then down here I connect it onto a 13mm so that it actually increases the pressure going around the garden. So what I have here is a 19mm to 13mm adapter. So this side is 19mm, this side is 13mm. So I'm going to connect this side clearly into the 19mm, which is connected to the tap. Then I'm going to run my really long piece of 13mm and connect that on there and take that around the garden bed. So to connect this and this is really quite simple. Get your 19mm clip, because this is for the 19mm connection, and just place it on your pipe. Doesn't matter where it goes, you can run down the end, it can flop around, because we're going to use that later. If you forget, you can still get it on without putting it on first, I just do that so I know that it's there. Then you just get this. Now there's a barbed part, so once you push it in, it's really hard to pull out. So just get it and push it in. It takes a bit of work. What you kind of try and do is you wiggle as you go in, and that kind of helps to press it in. So get it nearly there. There we go. It's nice and firmly fixed. Pull this clip up so it's around right over the join above the barbed part, and then just click it on as tightly as you can. There's no set amount of clicks, just get it as far as you can. It's more a safety measure. It's already difficult for this plug to come out. It's just to make it even more safe. Now in terms of cutting polypipe, you can get special tools that do it, or you can use your secateurs. They do the same job. That's all I've ever used. I've never bothered to actually get the official polypipe cutting tool, but feel free to. But I do find that secateurs work just as well. You do want to have sharp secateurs to do it, because you want a nice clean cut. So as long as you keep your tools in good order, it won't be a problem. So what I want for the moment is just a small piece, just to run from the join to the ground. So what I do is I just sort of lie it up next to it, see how long that is, and then work out where to cut it. I always try and cut a little bit more than I need, not too much, because it's better to have to cut a bit off than to have cut too much. There you go, nice clean cut. Same as before. This time you're going to grab a 13mm clip. Now I'm not going to bother feeding it on because I'll be able to get to the other end. So I'll just grab this, push it on. 13mm is easier than 19mm. It's on, grab my clip, feed it up the pipe, above the barb, up as tightly as I can. My connector now has a 19mm start, then down to a 13mm. Now because I want this to go towards the garden bed, I'm going to use a little corner junction. Okay? Now as you can see, I actually do have a little bit too much, so I'm just going to take off a couple of centimetres. Done. This time I do need to feed on my clip. And then push it on. Sometimes with corner pieces you can just twist them around like this, and that'll help you get it on nice and snug. There we go. Clip above the barb, nice and tight. I'm just going to lay the rest now, then I'll explain a couple more things. So now I have my really big long piece of polypipe connected to my main piece, which is connected to the tap. Because polypipe is actually fairly easy to manoeuvre, I'm not going to need to use joins and stuff as I go around. So what I'm going to do is just place that there, and I'm just going to take it around the garden bed, and I'll show you when that's done. Now the strength of this reticulation system is that it is really, really simple. But the weakness in a sense is that because it's so simple, it can't have too many sprinklers on it, because it just won't have the pressure. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay out 4 or 5 of the sprinklers that I'm going to put in, just to make sure that I'm happy with the spread. Roughly 1 per sort of metre is what I like to do with this. And I don't really want to have more than 5 or 6 on the one line. You can get away with up to 10, some people do that. I like to keep around 6, just because After that, I'd prefer to add a second station so that I can have the water focused on that area that I've got. So I'm just going to lay them out, and I will show you the very simple method of how to get these into the reticulation. Just quickly, when you buy these things, these are the risers basically that will stick into my polypipe reticulation. They come separate to the little nozzles that go on the top. It's really simple. The nozzles have a screw top. You just get it there and you just force it on. It takes a little bit sometimes, but eventually it'll grip, and then it's just a matter of twisting until it goes all the way on. So you'll see there, the nozzle is nice and tight to the top. Now this particular nozzle is a quarter spread, which means if you think about a circle, this will spray water on like a quarter. For this garden bed, I'm going to have 2/4 on the very ends, and then I'm going to spread 3/2, so it sprays a whole 180 of a circle around the rest of it. I want to limit the amount of water that's actually going to spray onto the driveway, because water on the driveway is kind of useless. I want it all going onto my garden bed. So what I have here is a bit of scrap polypipe and one of the old risers with a nozzle. Now I could have reused these, but as you can kind of see, the riser's been a bit bent. This is a bit worn. It's probably full of gunk. These do need replacing every couple of years. Well, either replacing or at least cleaning out. Because what does happen is in our water there are some residues and some things do come through and they collect some deposits. This one's not too bad, but there still is a fair bit of gunk in there. And so we want to make sure that we don't have to worry about that sort of gunk. So I've chosen to go with new stuff just because I know that will be fine. But for the purposes of showing you how to get this into this works fine. Basically what you want to do, these are very sharp on the end of your riser that's going to plug in. And so you just want to find the place you want it to go and gently start to turn the point onto it. Eventually it pushes in and it sits nice and snug inside of it. It's really simple to do while it's on the ground. I just thought that I'd show you nice and close so you can see what's going on. So I'm just going to plug my 5 risers with sprinklers into my piping. Then I'm ready to bury the piping, and that will be basically how to install a very simple polypipe reticulation. So I've plugged all 5 in. I've buried the hole over it. It doesn't need to be far down, so I've just made the sand now so it's nice and level with the rest of the area. I'm going to turn it on. We'll see if it works. As you can see, they're all spraying very nicely. Now if I was actually going to have some plants behind this bottle brush, I'd probably want to run either a line across the back, or I want to run maybe a drip system to the plants at the back, because this water, because I don't want to have too much water, because I don't want it blowing away and that sort of stuff, it's not actually going all the way to the back of the garden. That was deliberate on my behalf because I don't have plants there, so that doesn't need to get water. What these are designed to do is get water to the plants. Now, a lot of people actually prefer to use drip systems. I very strongly considered using that here, and I may well change to that in the future. The idea of a drip system is that each plant gets a little sprinkler planted next to it that drips water, as opposed to this which sprays water. So then when you turn it on, each plant is getting the water that it needs. It does mean you have to leave the water on for a bit longer, and sometimes, I know for me, I just want to be able to turn them on, 50 minutes later, turn it off. But the drip systems actually work really well, because you can just turn them on, go away for a while, come back, and it won't have given too much water. I'm happy with this, and I hope that you've learnt how to do very simple polypipe reticulation. That's all for this edition of Aussie Green Thumb on Camera.